anxious or like a bad person. So there's all different things work for different people. And even for myself, depending on the type of regret, I use different things to kind of work through it. So it's good to have a regret in your mind as I go forward. Does anybody have a regret? I don't want you to share it. You don't need to share it, but anybody have any regrets? Yeah, yeah. We all have regrets. Hmm. I'm not doing anything. Okay, so what is a regret? Regret is actually an emotion. It's a negative emotion that makes us feel worse, not better. It's an emotion that's triggered when we think of something from our past and we wish we had done or said something differently, gone down a different path, taken an action, or sometimes we regret the actions that we've taken. It can also be a regret for something that life does to us, such as an accident. We regret that we lost a family member. We regret that, all of our savings took a downturn in 2007. We have those kind of regrets and those are called external regrets. The term regret carries two different meanings. The term regret may be used in the sense of to feel sorry for or even remorse, implying that you, the person, in some way was responsible for all or part of it and you regret the event. And that's the internal kind of regret, internal circumstances. And that's really what we're going to focus on today. But everything that I'm talking about today can also be used for the second type of regret, which is used in sense of to lament or bemoan, referring to an expression of feeling about events or states. So like I said, something that happened externally to you in the world and caused you to feel badly about it, wish that it weren't, those kind of things. Yeah, all the time.
What about the ones that are your fault?
That's the first one, that you get the type of regret where you feel sorry for or remorse for. Any questions so far about regret? Okay. So why does this topic matter? So holding on to old regrets can get in the way of us seeing the full picture of our lives and who we are. If we're just narrowly focused on that thing that's really we're ruminating about, there's so many other things we don't see. We don't notice that, for example, everybody here so enjoys talking to us, or that you're like a extroverted person, that you bring joy to people. You're not even noticing all that because you're carrying this big thing on your back, and it changes your view of yourself in the world. And as we get older, the interpretation of one's past life takes on an increasingly large part when bestowing meaning to one's life. So this is the stage that we're in as older adults. One of the things we're really working on is finding meaning in our life and what has our life been meaningful. And so if you've got some old regret that's just churning in there, it's going to be really hard to see the full picture of your life and see all the meaningfulness that is there. Most of us experience regret at some point. Many of us continue to think about and sometimes ruminate about our regrets. Anybody ruminate about a regret? I do, yeah. We have regrets for missed opportunities, choices we've made, words left unsaid, things we have done and said. Emotional stress from regret can impact both mental and physical health. It increases our stress hormones when we're ruminating. They've had people think about their regret and kind of talk them through it and really got them, deep into their regret. And they've been measuring blood levels of cortisol and adrenaline, and these go up. These are stress hormones. These are what cause our blood pressure to increase, our heart rate to increase, and puts a strain on our heart. Emotional stress from regret is associated with increased depression and anxiety, and also associated with poor sleep. Not surprising, huh? How does regret form? So mentally, what we do when we have regret is we travel back in time to revisit some sort of past event that happened. And we use what they call counterfactual thinking, where you imagine a different reality that could have been if you acted differently. So we're looking back, we imagine that if we hadn't gone 70 miles an hour on the freeway, that when that car changed lanes, we would have had a greater chance of slowing down if we weren't going so fast. And so we picture the whole thing, picture ourselves in the lane and, oh, why was I going so fast? And, I shouldn't have been doing that. And the accident was my fault. And we just go, 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 go. So there's a bias in our remembering. Instead of accurately recalling the past, we remember it through a selective and distorted filter. We often focus on the negative or worrisome details because we're programmed to do that. Our mind, in order to survive, is programmed to see things that are worrisome or negative because those are danger, danger. And so it's hard. Our brain wants us to focus on that. And that's what we do, especially if we are feeling shame or feeling like we're less than because of something that we've done. You believe that you had the power to act differently and that the alternative outcome was attainable and would have been better, which often involves self-blame and many times shame. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. That's how regret gets going. There's actually an area, I just threw this in at the last minute because I thought it was so interesting. There's actually an area of our brain that's called the central hub for regret. And it's right here, kind of in the frontal lobe above our eyes. And when they have people think of their regrets, and have brain scans on, there's active on brain scans when a person experiences regret and when they anticipate future regret. So you can see this area of the brain light up when people are thinking about their regrets. It plays a role in learning from past decisions and influences future choices to avoid negative outcomes. And so that brings me to the point of regret. If it's just short term, and if you use it to problem solve and move on, then regret actually helps you learn, get your attention so that we don't do negative things again that are making us feel sad. So regret, short term, and if we can use it in the right way, it can be a good thing. But the regrets I'm talking about that are draining to us are things that we just carry, and sometimes we don't even talk about them. They did a study, people with damage to this medial orbital frontal cortex experienced less regret. So they had damage to this area, and then they had them take a test about the regrets, and compared to a control group, they had less regrets. They had a harder time experiencing regret. We just need to get that part of our brain, electrified. So what happens if we continue to hold on to old regrets? We remain stuck in the past and unable to see a bright future. It's all we're thinking about. It can cause us to become more isolated. When we feel really badly about ourselves, do we go out and laugh and share with people what's going on and all that? No, many times we think that we just need to stay home and think about this and we just go over and over and over again, and we don't feel worthy really to go out and have fun because this regret is so big. We don't get input or a reality check from anyone else but ourselves, right? If we don't share or talk to a trusted person or go out into the world and see what's going on, we get no input and we're just stuck there. Our vision is narrowed. We can only see the mistakes we made. It wears away at our self-esteem and our belief in ourselves. We may come to believe that we are undeserving, a bad person, a stupid person, a flawed person, all those things, which are not true. But, you are not alone. And this was by a researcher named Daniel Pink. We believe that no one else has many regrets, and certainly if they did, they wouldn't want to mention them. So we think that we should be that way too, even though we actually desperately want to talk about them. Having past regrets is common. Studies show that 82% of us have life regrets. We regret things we said, done, mistakes we've made, people we've hurt, and then there's external life events. Why is it so hard to let go of our past regrets? When you guys think of your past regret, why do you think you keep thinking about it and holding on to it? Why? Yeah, because you feel like you did a bad thing, and so you kind of need to be punished. Yeah. Anybody else?
the consequences may stay with you.
Right, you're afraid that if you don't think about that regret, you might do it again.
Yes, and the outcome of what you said, for example, or what you did, is playing out in somebody else's life in a way that maybe you wish it would.
Yes, yes. See, it's really, but you're saying it's kind of a safeguard for you to just be, increase your awareness and have it front and center. Is that it, or is it something else?
I'm not sure. Wondering. But
Maybe it'll be one of these things I'm going to talk about. So we do have an attachment to the past. Our brains have an attachment to the past because from the past we can learn and then we move forward. So we get used to kind of thinking about the past and living in the past. It can kind of become a habit. You guys all that come here, I mean, it really takes you out of that past, doesn't it? It brings you to the present when you're here. So what you're doing when you come to the program is so important and so valuable. Sometimes we don't let go of our past regrets because, and this was me with my children, we believe that we are responsible for everything that happens, right? If they're sad, we're responsible. If they're fighting, we're responsible. If they don't do well in school, we're responsible. It's just big, big, big. But we are not responsible for everything. There's always, in every situation, there's a lot going on. There may be some part of it that you have some responsibility for. There might not be, but you're not responsible for everything. Fear of letting go. If I forgive myself, I'll forget the lesson. I don't know if that's part of it. We want to hold on to it because we think that's the only way to prevent this from happening again. If I don't beat myself up for what I did, I might do it again. Sometimes we don't let go of our past because we just have, in general, negative, a habit of negative thinking patterns. We kind of use self-criticism as part of our self-talk. We might have started this in childhood when we had adults around us that talked to us that way, or siblings, or a spouse, or it was modeled for us. So we're just kind of used to doing this. You shouldn't have done that. You're a bad person. Why did you do that? That kind of thing is in our head. And sometimes we have an emotional attachment to our past identity. Who are we if we're not our mistakes? Yeah. So letting go of past regrets involves, and I'm going to kind of go through some techniques, talking to someone about it. Even though it's hard to do, and if you think about talking to somebody about it, if you get a tightness in your chest, it's a sign that you need to talk to somebody about it, but it needs to be somebody that you trust, will be able to take it and be nurturing and kind with you while you're talking. But it's very important because what happens typically is that just getting it out there, it's not all in you. Part of it's out here now. That's a release. And then, most of the time when I've experienced this myself, the other person that I'm telling is calm and reassuring and kind, so it has to be somebody that you really trust, though. Sharing your regret is a form of unburdening. The regret becomes a little smaller when we're able to talk about it with someone we trust. We can make sense of regret through talking. Other perspectives can expand our views, right? So we've been just on this treadmill thinking one thing. We start talking about it, they ask questions, it opens it up. We feel less alone. Sharing with other people that you care about builds strengthen the relationship, and it helps you to feel strength in where you're centered and you're anchored. So surround yourself with safe, positive influences and seek professional help when needed. So I'm going to tell you a story about what I regret that I had. This was, I don't know, 5 years ago or so. And I was moving into a new house, and I had been waiting. This house took forever for me to get it. It was some sort of short sale, and it just took like 6 months or something waiting. And all my furniture was in storage, and I was living in this little apartment thing with none of my stuff. And I just used to like go through the, pages and look for things to put in my new house, right? Just kind of dreaming. And so I decided that I wanted to put this big booze butcher block, which weighs about 150 pounds, in the center of my kitchen. So I order it and it comes, and you have to pay a lot for shipping for that because it's heavy, and it was expensive anyway. So it comes, I move into my house, I bring it in there, and it doesn't work in the kitchen. It's completely, you can't even get around it. You bump into things, and I can't even move it hardly. And I just felt such shame, and I realized I'd spent, I don't remember what it was expensive, like probably, I don't know, $300. And then I went to the UPS and I said, how much would this cost? I weighed it and I asked how much would it cost. Turns out it's going to be $150 just to return it. And so did I tell anybody? No, 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 no. I just talked about everything else, but every day I would go in the kitchen, I would see it there, and I would just feel so shameful. I was just like, you didn't measure? You didn't, what is the matter with you? And so then what happened was, my dear friend, who's no longer with us, she died, but she called me up and she said, oh, you moved into your new house. She said, I'm going to be in the area. I'm going to come by and help you put stuff, on the walls and stuff. And I said, okay. And so she shows up, and she's a little fireball, and she comes in the kitchen, and I point at it and I say, I feel really badly about this. I told her the whole story, and she said, oh my gosh, she said, $200 just to return it. It'll be out of your mind. Let's just go do it. I said, right now? She goes, yeah, it'll be fun. So she said, well, I said, well, how are we going to get it in the car? She goes, oh, we'll just drag it on the blanket. So we put it on this blanket. We both were dragging it. We were in hysterics. We get to the UPS store, and once again, the shame came over me, because I thought, oh, the UPS man is going to think that I'm terrible, because who spends, $200 to like mail something back? I thought he was going to judge me. So I had all that going on. But my friend Debbie, she just goes in there. She says, yeah, we've got a really heavy thing that we need to mail. And he said, oh, I'll bring out the dolly. So two guys came out with a dolly, and they put it in, and everybody was laughing, and I paid the $200. And then I was done, it was just gone. And now it's a funny story. I don't feel shame about it anymore. But if I had I think I might still feel shame if somehow I had gotten rid of it, but I didn't tell anybody. I think I would probably carry that. So anyway, that's a good story about telling somebody. So another technique that I do all the time is to reframe what you've done. The first thing is, give yourself grace. You were doing the best you could have at the time. It made sense at the time, or else you wouldn't have done it. So when I think about things that I did when I was, young and raising kids, I look back with all the wisdom that I have now and that I gained from raising them. And I expect that this person now would be the person I was when I was 35. And that is unfair. We did the best that we could in past situations, and we were at a completely different developmental stage. We hadn't had all the inputs that we have now. So we shouldn't expect ourselves to have done things differently. And if it made sense at the time, it made sense at the time for some reason, like the wood block. I just wanted to dream. I wanted to be out of this little apartment. It was like uplifting, that's why it made sense at the time. So you do things because they do make sense to you, not because you're trying to hurt yourself. Have compassion and not criticism for yourself. Treat yourself as you would a loved one. Replace if only with the next time I will. So the next time I will measure anything that I put into my kitchen. Instead of seeing a past event as a bad or total failure, try to view it as a learning opportunity that has shaped who you are today. What have you learned from the experience? That really helps me to move on. How can you use this experience to grow and become your best, most loving version of yourself? And I think I have this in a slide, but in case I don't, a mantra that really helps me, even for things, well, I'll tell you what it is. It's like, it's never too late to do the right thing. And even if the person that you did it to has passed away and you have no way to make amends directly to them, what would you have wanted to have done? So maybe, you know, if you're thinking of somebody that you said something to and they died and you never got to make amends, you think about that and you think, I really would like to be loving and having a connection with people and having a discussion about our vulnerabilities. And so if you think that's what I wanted, it's not too late to do that. Do that in your life right now, because what a difference that will make for you and for everybody. So that's learning from your past experiences and your past regrets and not just holding them, but then using them to go out into the world and make the world and yourself a brighter place. Change your story. Notice the story you are telling self and change the story, or add to the story to include something that's true and helpful. So if you have a story about, well, I think the next slide is, yeah. So this is change your story, change your life. So if you look at number 1, the event is that kids act out in store. And like my son, you know, pulled down his, when he was 5, pulled down his pants and peed in the toy store on the carpet. And then we went to Target and they hid in the clothes thing, and then they were screaming and pulling clothes off, and we actually got kicked out of Target. They were so wild. And believe me, I tried. So then you end up yelling at your kids, and then you tell yourself you're a bad mom for yelling. You know, later that night, you're thinking, geez, you know, nobody else like acts like this with their kids, and they're just little. You believe your kids would act better if you were a better mom. And then the result is you feel regret, guilt, sadness, have less confidence as a mother, less joy, more anxiety. So the way to change your story is you have an event, kids acting out in the store. Let's go back to that story. Okay, the story is that you're responsible for their feelings and their behavior and acting out, and whether they're good or bad, you're 100% responsible for that at all times. So there's a whole nother story there, isn't it? The other story is that my son was extremely physically active, and my daughter was, I don't know how to describe her, but loud, busy, and didn't want anybody to ever touch anything of hers. And my son was like, he wanted to be in the midst of everything. So it was chaos all the time. And they didn't nap, and it was hard to get him to even go sleep at night. So there were so many times, my story is now, there's so many times when with those 2 kids that I was an amazing mother, right? And that I tolerated when things were out of control. And I had moments where I lost my temper, as most people would, in that situation. So then my response is that most of the time I was a pretty good mom. And now I look back and my kids are, great and doing well. And, I did some right things. Otherwise they wouldn't be where they are today. And then what's the result of that? I feel confident about myself. I don't isolate. I can share the story about it. And I'm more connected to the world. Yeah. Oh, he just thought it was funny.
I'm sorry.
And I was checking out and he was just behind me, right behind me. And Molly, my daughter, said, Noah is peeing, Mom. And the clerk was right there and she could see. And I looked back and he's just peeing. And I looked back and it was on carpet. And I said, it's on carpet and there's nothing I can do about it. Well, we're just going to leave now. Because what can you do on the carpet? Okay. Fortunately, the clerk was about 18 and she didn't really care. So this is a story that I found. This is about motherhood, about changing your story. And I'm not going to read all of this, but she talked about it. She said the great irony is when she talked about being a bad mother. I went into shame about the horrible mother I was. I went inward. I spiraled into unworthiness. I couldn't be open-hearted and present, which took me further away from my values and made me even feel worse about myself. And then she decided it's time to open up about how unworthy I have felt because of mistakes that I've made. This goes for all, whatever regret you have in your head. I realize I need to search for this sense of being worthy as a mother. And through self-discovery, I realized that my habit of beating myself up was simply not giving me any positive outcomes. It wasn't making her a better mother. There's more than one storyline going on in every event that we're talking about. It's time to rewrite your story into one that's true, helpful, and helps you be more connected to others. So what are the pieces? What are the other pieces of that story of regret that you're thinking of that can remind you that you did the best that you could, that there were other things maybe that were at play, and that you're not 100% responsible for it? If you feel that you are 100% responsible for it and you can't let it go, we're going to talk about that on the next slide. It's time to bring, even if you feel that, it's time to bring tenderness and warmth to yourself. We are still that wonderful being of light that we were when we were born. We are still who we are. And only love and warmth, you can only bring love and warmth to others as much as you're willing to do it for yourself. So at any given moment, you have the power to say, this is not how the story is going to end. And Martha Beck, who, if you're interested in this, she's got some great stuff on letting go of regrets. Though past events aren't changeable, our stories about them are. Because we're focused on that negative, because that's what our brains want to do, but there's more there. Practicing gratitude. Gratitude is a feeling of appreciation for what one has. In the midst of the biggest chaotic mess of life, gratitude opens your world a little more. So you see the good that's been there all along. You're just seeing the, the peeing in the toy store, and you're not seeing the other things that are going on. That I actually did handle that pretty well at that time. And I changed my behavior of not taking them into toy stores until they were older. Practicing gratitude. If you practice gratitude, if you just every day, close your eyes and think of 3 things you're grateful for, that starts to train your brain to notice the helpful and good things going on around you. So it's a training. It's almost like physical training, mental training, so that when you do something you regret, you will automatically go into this, oh yeah, I did that. What can I learn from this? All that, instead of just focusing on bad, bad, bad. It helps you shift your focus, fosters self-compassion, changes your story to one that includes compassion, grace, and goodness. So we're not going to do this, but this is a technique. I'm just presenting it in case you want to do this at home. Focus on what you've learned. So you can write a failure or mistake resume, where you just write down everything you can think of, mistakes you've made, regrets you're holding on to, and then take a moment to describe what you have learned from each experience. What have you gotten from that? Is there anything that you're doing differently or more positively? This provides you with some information about yourself, about your strengths, and how you've grown. The most important thing about letting go of old regrets is to stop ruminating on that treadmill. Endless rumination keeps you trapped in the past, preventing you from moving forward. Thinking about something over and over does not allow space for new information, right? You can only think one thing at a time, right? So if you're thinking that, there could be all these things going on around you that could help you move on and could remind you that you're not that bad person, but you're not seeing them because you're just seeing this one thing. When you stop ruminating and focusing on your past, you will be more open and let in some new ideas. Doing mindfulness practice is also a good practice because it allows you to focus on the present moment. It's a reminder to focus on the present moment. Who are we now in this moment? We are more than our past mistakes. And there's different techniques you can use. There's deep breathing, there's grounding exercises, there's meditation, and then there's prayer. And we're going to do a quick little meditation for letting go of past regrets.
Before you move on.
Yeah.
I kind of think Nina was talking about the consequences of whatever choices you made have a residual effect. They go on.
And you still see it.
Yeah, and the example that I was thinking of is I said something to a person who was a good friend of mine. She said something back to me in response to that, which ended our friendship. So I missed the friendship.
Yeah,
That's the consequence.
yeah,
And whatever I said and whatever she said were done for whatever reason, but the consequences
Yeah.
are still there.
right. Yeah, and you carry that with you.
Mhm.
Yeah. So did you,
It's a regret. I don't blame myself for it. I think, but I do keep coming back to it because yesterday was her birthday.
Yeah. yeah. I'm going to read something here from the mother one that you can relate to. The first thing you have to do with that is to just allow the grief. You know, I know we try to push it away because we don't want to think about it. We don't want it to have happened, but it's there. So we really have to open up our heart and allow ourselves to grieve. So I grieve over the better things I could have done as a mother. And I've spent a lot of time just really opening up to that. And this woman kind of has a little almost a poem. I haven't, I'll change it for you. An incredible sense of grief for the loss of my friend, grief for all the times that I don't get to see her, grief for all the times that I rush through the day without noticing little moments with you, grief for not always validating you, grief for dismissing, that's not really good, grief for not always meeting you with tenderness, grief for lost moments of distraction, grief for moments of anger, grief for any pain or shame that I have caused you that can impact your future. So just, allowing those, reading those lines and just allowing yourself to sit with that a little bit. It just kind of, it almost opens up your chest. Do you feel any difference when you hear those things?
Not yet.
Well, I'm going to give you a copy of this, and do it on your, when you're quiet and yourself and not in a room. Yeah. And then the next thing is to, once you've kind of gone through the grief and you've accepted that this is what it is, the next thing, if you're able to make amends, did you try to make amends with her? Yeah. So, and what do you think is keeping you from doing that?
Mm. I don't want to get it.
Okay, but something is keeping you from moving forward with that, and that's keeping that rock on your back. Yeah. So I think, let's see, yeah, so allow yourself to grieve what you've lost, acknowledge that the past cannot be changed, focus your energy on what you can control in the present and future. So one of the things that you can do is to think about what you wanted from that friendship and how can it's never too late to do the right thing and recreating that in some way. It's hard to make friends, but it can be done. And so creating that, and then in that friendship, doing the right thing and containing when you're feeling overwhelmed and angry about something. That's really helpful because it shows yourself that you learned something and that you've got wisdom and that you've grown, which is what we're all here for. We're just all here to get wisdom and grow. And so of course we're going to make mistakes. And just to tell you a little bit about your story, saying a couple things to a friend it's not a big thing. You know what I mean? There's so many other things. It's an incident that happened. And you probably had many moments with her when you said kind things and you guys were kind to each other. So that's all part of the story, is that there's a kindness and a connection there. And you had one incident where you didn't talk the way you wanted to talk with her. It's one incident. Right? Okay. So make amends if possible. If you've got something that you feel is getting in the way, have you been able to do that, talk with somebody about that, that you trust? And my mantra is it's never too late to do the right thing in one way or another. Use the lessons you've learned to bring light into the situation or the world at large. Choose curiosity and understanding instead of self-blame. I'm curious as to why I reacted that way that day. I wonder what else was going on, that I'm curious about that. I want to learn more about myself. because I want to grow from this and be a wise person and be a good friend. The other thing about making amends is when we make amends, we have to go into the making amends situation knowing front and center in our head that they may not reciprocate, or they may still be angry, or they may say something that's not nice, but we're not responsible for that. And we can't control that. No, let the whole thing with Mel Robbins, let them. You're only responsible for what you do. And if you decide that making amends and saying whatever it is you're going to say, either in an email or, text or calling, is the right thing, then that's what you do. But you don't have any expectation about the other person. And that's really helpful because, if you go in thinking, okay, I have to say the right thing so that they really get this and understand, and then they become my friend again. No, you say what's right for you with no expectations on whether or not they're going to take it in or reciprocate. But you've done what you need to do for yourself, and you can be comforted in that. Remember that you deserve a second chance, because we as humans all deserve a second chance, or 2 or 3, maybe even. Distinguish between, I like this in the middle one, distinguish between, once you're thinking about the situation, distinguish between moral failings and simple unskillfulness. Sometimes we did something because we just didn't have the skills in that situation.
The only one that these things happen to.
Yes, we're alone. And it happens to all of us. And 83% of us carry them with us, which is a huge amount. There's a small percentage of people that don't carry regrets. Things happen and they move on. I think their brain right here must be something that happened to it, because most of us do carry regrets. Say out loud, I did the best I could with what I knew at the time and the skills that I had at the time.
What if you went against the best you knew and it turned out terrible?
Well, you did it for some reason. You did it, you had a reason for doing that, and it made sense to you. And you're not a bad person. And so I know that there was a reason that you did that. And all we're focusing on is this bad thing. But what else? What else was going on? What's the other part of that story? You did the best you could do at that time.
I don't think so. So over a 2-year period, we adopted 3 dogs, and they were all long-haired dogs, and they were all 13 years old. And so they were aging, right, with different health issues. So Elvis was our first dog, and he was the one who was beginning to fail. And he hated having his hair brushed and combed, so he had to be professionally groomed, right? And I was taking finals, and I was in the midst of this. I was up to my hair, and I tried to comb him and stuff like that, and he wouldn't have none of it. So I called the groomer and I said, okay, he's heavily matted. It's terrible. And she goes, don't worry about it, bring him in. And so somebody called to confirm the appointment. I says, he's heavily matted.
Yeah.
All right, is that I'm willing to pay the extra fee. Yeah, don't worry about it, bring him in. So I bring in Elvis, heavily matted, and the technician picks up his fur and says, oh, this is so
Oh, no.
bad. And I says, I know, it's, I was neglectful, and I'm not used to long-haired dogs and blah, blah. She goes, I don't think we can do this. And I says, oh, but I called and I talked to people, and she says, he's gonna need to be sedated. And it was like, oh my gosh, yeah. And she says, and we wouldn't want to damage his flesh. No, we don't want to damage his flesh, but she wouldn't groom him.
Right.
So I took him back home, and I told my husband, he says, well, I've got some clippers in the garage. Let's just do it ourselves. So I washed Elvis in preparation to do our own grooming. And since you do one dog, why not 3 dogs? So I went ahead and washed the other 2 dogs, long hair dogs, so they require blow drying and all this stuff. So then, where's Elvis? I washed him first and I'm looking for Elvis. I've left the back door open. Yeah, so he went out there and rolled and got
Oh,
burrs
oh, no.
entwined
Oh,
into this
no.
heavily matted wet hair.
Oh, gosh.
I was like, oh, why didn't I close the door? So my husband comes home and I says, I don't know what to do. And he says, forget it. So he picks up Elvis and takes him to the vet and has him put down.
Oh,
So,
oh.
so I killed Elvis. So why didn't I close the back door? You know,
Well, yeah,
why didn't I?
why, listening to that story, why do you all think she didn't close the back door? There was so, you had 10, 20 things going in your head and school. I mean, and it was stressful. And when it's stressful, we're thinking about that.
Yeah.
We're not thinking about the door. Yeah.
Poor Elvis.
What else did you hear in her story that's true and helpful? Yes. Yeah. Yes.
What's that?
You didn't kill Elvis.
Oh.
This is your husband. Yeah. We need to get him in here.
Yeah. You know what that story is going to be? The day you made me kill Elvis.
Elvis can have a buddy that he sends the kids after, that day their parents gave him a haircut,
I don't know.
That was the plan, is after you gave him a bath that you were gonna,
Yeah, well, I was
Yeah.
getting him ready to get his,
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you couldn't have the haircut, just shave Elvis. I mean,
Yeah.
The short haircut.
where were you when I needed you?
but see, she did the best. She didn't think of that. It's not her area of expertise. I mean, it might be now,
No,
but
I'm more
So we-
diligent about
you know,
brushing the other.
what
two.
did you learn from all of that,
Keep up with the long-haired dogs.
But, and having 3 long-haired dogs is hard,
Yes.
that maybe like, don't buy that butcher block, maybe I don't want to have 3 long-haired dogs. I don't know, but that's what,
Yeah.
think about what you learned, because that's the value of making a mistake, is that we all make mistakes, but the people who end up, connected and having joy in life and bringing joy into the world are people that then have learned from their mistakes and have grown and have wisdom now about it.
Yes.
So think about all the things that you learned about, and you've grown.
Yeah.
And certain things, adulting things that you didn't think of before.
Right.
You absolutely did the best you could with what you had. You
Oh,
took those dogs in because I know you're a warm-hearted person, and it's the right thing, and it was the right thing at the
for
time.
each one.
It was the right thing at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did the right thing, and you did the best that you could.
That's the part I doubt. I doubt I did the best I could.
Because of the door.
Because of the door.
Yeah. Do you think it's possible to keep 10 things in your head at once?
Probably not.
It's not, I mean, it's not. You keep one thing in your head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if Leanne, if somebody else had done this, like, somebody, a neighbor, you would probably say the same thing that you're being told, like you did the
Yeah.
best you could, you wouldn't probably throw entire blame on them. They were juggling so much,
Yeah.
and so were you.
I suppose I wouldn't say, yes, you're the idiot you think you are.
You would say, wow, it's amazing how you care for those dogs and you
Oh.
took them in and that you were trying to do all of that at once. I mean, I am amazed with it. I
Yeah.
can picture it.
The groomer was so
Like, wouldn't
shady.
even do it.
She was so shady.
You were the hero.
And guess what? That's like one of the most favorite things
Yeah.
dogs love to do. So that dog went out happy.
Yeah,
Yeah, he was a,
yeah.
I don't think he went out happy, but
All
he didn't
right.
have to have his hair brushed.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's a good outcome.
Yeah, that's right.
So if you have something that is causing you regret and there's really nothing that you can do about it, this is, and I talked a little bit with you about this, you can reclaim the essence of what you lost. So for example, my best friend, this is not a true story, but this is an example. My best friend died suddenly. I regret that I didn't tell her before she died how much she meant to me, how much I loved her, and what I valued about our friendship. So ask yourself, what do you think you would have had in your life, will have in your life, if the thing you regret had not happened? So what if you had told your friend that you loved her and told her all the things you valued about the friendship before she died? So the answer would be, for me, would be, I would have strong and warm connection with someone that I care about. I would know that I can be vulnerable and create closeness with someone. I would feel good about being open and loving. So that's what you want to have in your life. And so is there a way that you can have this in your life now? By, creating new connections with people. Maybe it's hard to create deep friendships, but even connections in here, little hellos and like your shoes and that kind of stuff. But and I'm sure you do that just throughout your day. But having that, as front and center in your mind, that I learned from this experience, and I really want to create warm connections and feel close to people in my world. And so that's what I'm going to put out into the world now. And so, what a light that is to have come from something that was negative. And it's only reason you're contributing to the world in such a wonderful way is because you're a wise person now and you learned from your mistake. I think we're gonna have to skip this because it's getting kind of late. Let's just do it a little quick. So close your eyes and just get comfortable. Take a deep breath in and let the air out. And begin by finding a comfortable and quiet position. Gently closing your eyes. Feeling the support beneath you, the earth holding you steady. Bring your awareness to your breath and notice its natural rhythm. Breathe in slowly through your nose and exhale gently through your mouth. Inhale calm and peace, and with your exhale, release any tension you may be holding. As you breathe, imagine yourself standing at the edge of a tranquil body of water, a gentle river, a calm lake, or a peaceful ocean. The water is clear and the current is soft and consistent. Notice if you are carrying anything. It may appear as a backpack, a heavy cloak, or luggage in your hands. This represents the weight of your past. Feel its presence without judgment. Perhaps it's a specific memory, a regret, or a limiting belief about yourself. Take a moment to acknowledge that you have carried this for a long time, and it has played a role in shaping you. Now, with a deep breath in, turn your attention to the water. As you exhale, imagine you are slowly placing your burden onto the surface of the water. If it's a backpack, you set it on a leaf. If luggage, you place it on a small raft. Watch as the water begins to carry it away. See the item representing your past floating further and further into the distance. It is not being destroyed or forgotten, but simply moving away from you. You can still see it, but no longer weighs you down. You are no longer defined by it. Feel the spaciousness and openness that's created inside you. Feel your body grow lighter. And now take a deep cleansing breath. Inhale fresh, clean air into the new space within you. And then exhale fully, releasing any final remnants of the past. Feel a sense of freedom. You are free to embrace the present moment. You are free to create a new, beautiful path forward. And when you feel ready, just gently open your eyes. How was that? It's always nice to take a moment. And then I just want to end, I think this is the end. I came across the biggest regrets at the end of life. They did a huge interview with people. I think there were thousands. And these are the 5 biggest regrets when of the dying. I wish I had had the courage to live a life true to myself and not the life others expected of me. I wish I hadn't worked so hard. I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings. I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. I wish I had let myself be happier. So those are all things that we can create and add to our story if those are important to us. Further reading. These are a couple really good books. Power of Regret, How Looking Backward Moves Us Forward, and the Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. And then Martha Beck is, if you just go on the web and just type in Martha Beck and regret, she's got some good stuff, and she's got good YouTube stuff too. So I'm going to end with words of wisdom from Martha Beck. If you've ever made a bad decision or suffered an accident, regret has been your roommate, if not your conjoined twin. It's a difficult companion, prone to accusatory comments and dark moods, and it changes you, leaving you both tougher and more tender. You get to decide, however, whether your toughness will look like unreachable bitterness or unstoppable resilience. Your tenderness, the raw vulnerability of a never-ending wound, or a kindness so deep it heals every wound it touches. Regret can be your worst enemy or your best friend, and you get to decide which. That. Okay. Any questions or comments? It's a tough subject, I know.
Any questions from Zoom land?
No, it was great. Great.
Thank you guys for being here and sharing your regrets. It's so helpful for everybody. And anyway, have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Sharon.
Thank you.
You.